All right, this is chapter 17, Andrew Johnson. If there's a vote that I have for of all the presidents, which one was just historically just shit the bed? Just the absolute worst. And there are some doozies on this list. Trust me, there's some great ones. Some ones you may not agree with. A lot of people don't agree with Franklin Roosevelt, for instance, on a lot of things. But you can't deny the dude had it together. He was absolutely one of the best politicians the United States ever produced, bar none. You can argue with like an Eisenhower. You can argue with a Truman. You can argue with a Lincoln. You can have a debate, but you can't have a debate that they weren't really suited to their time and very, very strong leaders. But there's a list down at the bottom too, not just the ones that are a little bit forgettable, but the ones that are just out and out terrible. And Andrew Johnson certainly kind of takes the cake. I think it's important to understand, though, some of the context around that. Andrew Johnson was sort of a compromise candidate. Remember, at the end of the Civil War, basically there was no Southern party. The Southern states were not readmitted to the Union at this point. So, and the Civil War was still going on when Lincoln was being reelected. So what Lincoln wanted to do is he wanted to pick someone for the vice presidential ticket who could help present a unified ticket. Now, Andrew Johnson was one of the only senators, really the only senator, who remained loyal to the Union from Tennessee. So it seemed like kind of this is kind of a perfect solution to this Union party versus a Republican party. Well, unfortunately, it didn't take long for Lincoln to understand what an unbelievable clusterfuck this guy was. And I want to give you a taste for just how bad it started. And this is during the inauguration, right before Lincoln delivered his second inaugural address, one of the most famous speeches in American history. Beautiful, just the kind of oration, and I studied it in school. You probably did as well. What we didn't study is the speech before that, and that was Andrew Johnson's speech. And I want to share with you how he closed it, and then a little bit of context behind that. So get ready for this. Imagine he's standing up there, and he's swaying at the podium. You'll figure out why in a second. He takes up the Bible, and he screams to the group, "I kiss this book in the face of my nation of the United States," at the climax of his speech. And I just want to share with you a little bit about the beginning, just so you understand what's going on. That line sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? The first time I read his speech, and this line in particular, I thought so too. At first, I chalked it up to my inexperience with the way people talked in the 1860s. When you read classic speeches of the era, the Lincoln-Douglas debates, for example, you hear a different version of English than you're used to. To the modern ear, the language sounds a bit stilted and indirect. Perhaps Johnson's speech was a typical example from that time. No. As it turns out, Johnson was hammered. In the minutes before his rambling 15-minute address to the gathered delegation of congressional representatives, Supreme Court justices, and President Lincoln, Johnson decided he needed a little something to calm his nerves. He reportedly drank 2 tumblers of straight whiskey, began to walk down the hall to the gathering room, and decided to go back for more. The records are unclear on exactly what constituted a tumbler of liquor in those days, but let's make some educated guesses, shall we? At the bar, if you ask for a pour of straight whiskey, or neat, meaning without water or ice, you'll get 2 ounces. If you ask for a double, you get 3 ounces. We know that Johnson liked his liquor and took it straight. I must believe those were generous pours if the object was to calm his nerves. So let's say 3 ounces per pour. Multiply that by 3, and you get 9 ounces of whiskey in the space of 5 minutes. If that's easier to relate to shots from your college days, remember that a typical shot is 1.5 ounces. That means Johnson took 6 shots of hard liquor before his speech. All things considered, Lincoln is lucky that Johnson made it to the podium at all. The full speech, which I'd invite you to go read, would be hilarious if it weren't coming from the mouth of the incoming vice president, who, as unluck would have it, would be president in a matter of weeks following Lincoln's assassination. But this is, indeed, the sad part. So, This is a funny start to a deeply sad and unbelievable missed opportunity that in many ways we are still struggling with today. The failure of Reconstruction, the failure to get that off the ground in a respectful, meaningful way, to get the changes through that needed to go through, and make them more permanent. Reconstruction was a disaster. There's no other good way to put that. And it was really, I trace it back to Johnson, this utter failure of Johnson to really figure out how to get that done. I detail some of that in the book, the utter persuasive failure of how to get that done. It's kind of a sad chapter, but the drinking part up front, if you can separate yourself from the rest of it, it's kind of funny. So enjoy your weekend. Enjoy this. On July 4th, Independence Day, Marketer-in-Chief comes out. So make sure to get your copy on Amazon right now. You can pre-order it. You can pre-order the ebook. Print version, everything else is on its way shortly as well. I'll keep you posted.